let's connect with Pratibha K Advani. She's the Chief Financial Officer, Tata Communications, who joins in on the phone line. Thank you so much for joining in. Let's talk a little bit more about this deal with Liquid Telecom and RBH acquiring Neotel for about 2,900 crores. Firstly, can you tell us what is likely to be the timeline for the deal to be completed?
Good morning. We expect the deal to close out by the end of the financial year.
So now we understand
financial year FY17.
Right. Now, we also understand that Neotel has a debt of something like $350 million. What net proceeds could be flowing into Tata Communications?
So let me tell you, the deal is not about the net proceeds that are going to flow into Tata Communications, but it is a lot more strategic because we did want to come out of the market, of the South African market. And this deal was really transformative for both Neotel and Liquid Telecom, because it will create a strong South African fiber player. And this was pretty much in line with the strategy that we had chalked out for Neotel. However, it required to make more investments, which at this point was not our strategic priority.
Makes sense, Pratibha. Good morning, Neeraj here, and we'll get to that as well. However, just to get the financial aspects out of the way, as I would understand that the 55, the rand, South African rand number that came out is probably the EV. So, what's the net proceed that goes into Tata Communication? Let's just get the figures out of the way first.
So, as I mentioned, you know, and earlier on, you also mentioned that there is a debt sitting in Neotel books, and that's about 5.1 billion rand. This deal is going to help pay down that debt for Neotel. And the proceeds coming into Tatacom at this point is not relevant. Coming back to the valuation, I just want to add that our current valuations, if we look at our FY16 EBITDA, are actually far better than what we were getting in the earlier deal.
Okay. So just one small clarification, because before we come to the strategic importance of this as well, because I think the market is of course extremely happy with this having happened. Are you saying that none of the net proceeds will flow into the books of Tata Communication?
They would, but if you look at the in comparison to the entire deal value, that's a very small amount. So, you know, and hence my focus is to highlight that the deal has been done for other strategic reasons, one of which is also to pay down the debt. And, you know, for us to grow Neotel further, it would have required further investments, which was not in line with our current strategy.
So now you know, it becomes a more focused company, Tata Communications as well, with the data and the voice. Just tell us the way ahead. I mean, you know, the reason I'm asking you this question, Pratibha, is that people on the street, when this deal was announced, thought of it as a two-pronged deal. One, it makes Tata Communication a leaner entity by reduction of debt, and two, the focus. Now, you're saying that the debt reduction is not as much as people would have thought earlier. Can you tell us FY17 net debt? That is the first part of my question. The second part of my question is the focus that you now have on the existing business and how that will grow.
No, so let me re-clarify for you.
Sure.
If you look at the consolidated debt, there was a Neotel debt of 5.2 billion rand that was sitting. That debt will come out of Tatacom consolidated financials. So it will help in paring down our debt. However, when you're asking what is the flow-through that will happen to Tatacom, that because of the large chunk of the money going in to pay down the debt in Neotel books will not be substantial flow-through happening into Tatacom books. Yeah. However, there is some amount that will flow through. On the point number two, our strategy is very clear. We are looking at an asset-light model for growth. Our focus is our data services, and they have been performing very well. We've had a CAGR growth over the last 4 years of 17%. Last year, we grew by 18%. Both our traditional as well as our growth services and new services portfolio have been performing very well. Our new services have been growing by 31% year on year. And that really is our strategy for Tata Com, that the growth is going to be coming from our data services portfolio. And this includes media services, unified communication and collaboration services, cloud hosting services, some of the new platforms that we've recently launched, ISO, which is ISO WAN, ISO storage. So all these services are the ones that are going to be the drivers for future growth for the company.
And, although you have touched upon this, can you just emphasize a little bit more about the outlook on your data business growth? Because you have mentioned that you will be looking to improve return ratios. Can you specify to what extent and what is the outlook over here?
In the next 3 years, we are confident that we would be able to hit close to 30% EBITDA margin for our data portfolio. FY15 Q4, we closed at 22.8% EBITDA. Sequentially, all the last 4 quarters, we have seen sequential margin growth in our data services business. So we are confident that that growth momentum will continue. Albeit, I have to add that in the short term, because of the impact of our data services business, there could be a downward trend in EBITDA, but at a PBT level, we will make that up. However, we are committed to 30% data services EBITDA growth over by the next 3 to 4 years. And we are also committed to improve our return on capital employed, which did improve in last financial year. And we set our sights that in the next 3 years, we'd like to hit 15%.
Right. Now, reports suggest that you're also looking to sell off the ATM business. What kind of fundraising can we expect from the asset sale, and can you share some timelines?
I'm afraid that is not a question I'd like to answer.
Pratibha, Neeraj here again. Just a couple of clarifications that I seek. What after this deal having happened, do you have a sense of what the shareholding pattern of Neotel will look like?
That's actually, we are coming out of Neotel completely, so
Okay.
we are not going to be holding any stake in Neotel.
Okay, in which case, my follow-up question. So, just trying to understand this because I missed it the first time. This deal is give or take a few points here and there, about 2,900 to 3,000 odd crores. So, correct me if I'm wrong here. So, out of this 3,000, how will this money of 3,000 crores be used by Tata Communication? Because in effect, if Tata Communication is getting out of Neotel, they should be getting 3,000 crores, if I'm not wrong. How will these 3,000 crores be used?
So let me explain to you. The equivalent of the 3,000 crores is 6.55 billion ZAR. Out of that, we would be using 5.19 billion ZAR to pay down the debt in Neotel. The balance 1.36 billion will be used to settle other debt and debt-like items, and the balance will flow through to Tata Com. Our stake currently in Neotel is 67.3%. So in that ratio, the money will come into Tata.
So
it's going to be some $50 million.
Okay, so in effect, and please correct me if I'm wrong again here, in effect, you are using a large portion of the deal money that is coming into you to retire the existing debt at Neotel. So the buyer is essentially buying Neotel net of debt for about 5 million rand, if I'm not wrong, or a slightly smaller sum.
No, the debt is 5.19 billion.
Right.
The balance is 1.36 odd billion rand.
Okay, so you are essentially retiring the debt first and then paying and then selling it out Neotel at that small sum. So just that small clarification once again, Pratibha. I may be sounding repetitive out here, but the net debt or the debt sitting on the books of Tata Communication aside of the Neotel debt going away would be how much after this deal is consummated?
So Tata Com has a 1.438 billion net debt sitting in our books.
That I presume would remain as is, right? I mean, you're retiring the Neotel debt, but this 1.43 would stay as is post this deal as well.
No, we are looking at paring down that debt as we close down the data center stake sales. So that is also on the anvil.
Okay, but you wouldn't have figures at hand right now as to how much would it go down by?
Yeah, I mean, that's not something I'd like to share at this point in time.
fair call.
I mean, given that our cost of funds is at 3.41%, our interest cost is really not hurting us at this point in time.
Okay.
And hence, we would like to look at options of how we can use some of that money to further grow our data services business.
No, we're probing too much on this, but just a quick last word. What will be the net debt to EBITDA that is achievable in the near term for the company?
So we are looking at about 2.5x.
0.5x?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
That's near to medium term goal at this point in time.
Medium term goal. Okay, there have been lots of facts and figures, and I thank you so much, Mrs. Advani.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/etnow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at etnowlive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/etnow.